So one way to look at investments, and one that it's kind of more of a recent thing for me for looking at it this way, is look at it compared to a purchase, like a large purchase, and see where the real value in investments is. And it might make you think twice about going and making a purchase that maybe is not in your best interest. Because there's sometimes a real disparity in value when you look at the two. Because it's not just the cost of the item you just purchased, it's what I look at as, and I think I've heard people refer to it as the opportunity cost. Whatever money you just put into whatever you just bought is money that you did not put into an investment that could be growing. So what's the real loss here? It's not just that amount of money, it's what you lost in growth as well. So let's take a new car, for example, okay? And we're gonna make a few assumptions here. We're gonna assume that you guys are adults and you have a functioning but older car. And you suddenly have this wild hair like, you know what, I wanna go buy a new car. I wanna get something kinda nice. So I'm gonna spend 40 grand on a brand new car. Well, we already talked about buying brand new cars, why that's dumb, but let's just assume that for right now. And keep it in mind that when you buy a car, you're not just, for 40 grand, unless you have 40 grand laying around, you're doing it on payments, right? Over a certain period of time. So we're gonna assume you're buying it over 5 years or 60 months. And there's, of course, if you're doing that, you're usually borrowing the money, and so you have to pay to borrow that money. So instead of the car costing 40 grand, it's actually over a 60 month, if you're doing like, say, a 5% interest over 60 months or 5 years, you're actually gonna end up paying a little over $45,000 for a $40,000 car, okay? So you're losing money there too. So if you do this, I did the math on it, you end up spending about 755 bucks a month to have that new car, all right? That's about $9,000 a year. And after 5 years, when it's all paid off, what's that car worth? Less than 40 grand, right? Remember what we learned about like new vehicles, they crash in value, right? So typically a car that started off at 40 grand would be worth about $18,000 after 5 years and continuing to go down. So it lost about $22,000 in value. And of course, if you go for a more expensive car, the nicer the car, the quicker it depreciates in value. Now let's take that same amount of money, all right? Let's say instead of buying that new car, you're gonna take that 755 bucks and you're gonna invest it every month instead. All right, so we're doing the exact same thing, but investments. And let's assume again that the market's going up at a typical 8%. If you do that over that same period of 5 years, instead of having a car that's now worth $18,000, you have investments that are worth $57,000, a little over $57,000, right? So $18,000 car or $57,000 in cash, if you were to cash out right then. All right, that's a difference of $39,000. Huge difference, almost the value of the car right there. And if you were to not invest a penny more, if you turned around and you said, you know what, I'm not gonna keep doing these $755 a month payments, I'm gonna stop, I'm just gonna let it sit there, I'm gonna forget that it even exists, and I'm gonna come back to it. In another 5 years, that 57 grand would be about $84,000. And if you let that thing sit for 25 years, and again, not putting another penny in there, that initial money you put in for trying to buy that car would be worth almost $400,000. So the question is it worth that in the long run to make this purchase? Now, obviously, at some point you need to have a vehicle, but it makes you rethink your purchases. Like, should I go for something that's more expensive than what I need when I can just get by with what I have here and grow my wealth and get out of where I'm at, get to the point where I am retired earlier, and then go get the nice car that you want, because you'll have way more to do it with. So anyway. All right.